guiding you to become the hero of your own story. This is the Journey Principles Radio Show, where you are the warrior and we are your weapon. Now, here are your hosts, Josh Bledsoe and Master Life Strategist, Stephen Scoggins.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Journey Principles Radio Show. Man, we are so excited to have you back in the studio, and I'm excited to have you back in the studio, sir, to close out the intellectual pillar. If you've been watching and paying attention, downloading, and following anything we've been doing at all this month, it's all been about your intellectual pillar. And by now, you know that this is not about how book smart you are. This is about how street smart you are, right, Brian? We're talking about street smarts, right? It's not even about street smarts. We are going to wrap up this intellectual pillar today with something that's near and dear to Stephen's heart, something that actually was in the intellectual pillar when you put it together.
Yep.
But it's kind of manifested itself in new ways here lately.
Yeah, life's been interesting.
Welcome back to the show.
Well, it's good to see you, man.
Pleasure to have you. So, in case you haven't seen it yet, check out Stephen Scoggins on Facebook and check out the 30-minute video. Yes, it's 30 minutes, so I gave you a forewarning, but it is well worth your time. Spend the next 30 minutes after the show and watch the video, and you understand kind of where he's coming from and a lot of things that are just coming from. Because you guys know us. We're raw. We're real. I screw up a lot, and we just have fun with it, right? We're just real people trying to help real people. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Stephen, you put this video out yesterday. On discernment specifically, and you kind of wanted to let the people know where you've been and what's been going on.
Yeah.
What drove you? What gave you that light bulb to turn?
Well, if you think about it, last month when we were on the show, I was talking about some of the things that I was steadily walking through, and I'd been on the fence for probably the last 5 months about how much to share or what to share with the world, the Journey Principles world, the folks that follow us and whatnot. Most of our views come after this has been recorded and kind of throughout the day when people actually have a moment to check on their phones.
Evergreen.
It's evergreen. That's right. It's pretty. It's precious. At any rate, I felt compelled, and I have been feeling this way for quite some time, to just be real and true. I think a lot of times the folks that kind of are in this arena, whether either they're a host of a radio show or they're a speaker or an author or whatever, a lot of times we're always polished.
Yeah, you're prepared. Like you practice
you're always,
something.
You're prepared. You're practiced. You've been reading your notes. You've been studying this. You've been studying that. You've been trying to get to know your audience and all that kind of stuff. And all that's important. And I'm going to take that away from the professionals, as I like to put it. But one of the things that I have always wanted to be with the public is just be me. Just be raw. Just be me. And what I did was I decided to take it upon myself to just share the last 5 months of my life. Because we've had several shows where we got to talk about how successful the businesses had been that I'd created, how successful the team members had been that had been working with me.
A lot of highlight stories.
Yeah, a lot of highlight stories. And it's kind of like when you go on Facebook, it's always your best photo. It's always
cropped a little bit.
Yeah, you crop it. You put that little filter on it, and you can get rid of wrinkles and stuff. Clearly, I needed to use it myself, but. What we don't do a lot of times is we don't share the down and the dirty, if you will. Yeah. And for me, that's not who I want to be. That's not what I want to be known for. That's not how I want to share experiences. The reason it's called the Journey Principles is because everybody's on a journey.
That's right. We're all there.
And then it's about applying principles along the way to kind of help you shape up. And I found myself the last few months actually doing the very same stuff we've been teaching. I've had to. I won't give too much away, but the videos, it is about 30 minutes long, but everybody tells me it goes by really fast.
Because it's chronological. You know, when I heard that you're going to put out a 30-minute video, I was like, oh boy, here we go, buckle up. But you did it in a way that's very chronological, and it reads kind of like a book, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I'm sure when we get a chance to go ahead and start working on the next book again, I'll probably put those stories in there with a lot more color, a lot more clarity, to make it just truthful.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people miss the most is us being truthful. The reality is life for me specifically, personally, has been very difficult the last 5 months. Not really for anything that I can remember seeing or viewing that I did incorrectly. I'm sure I'm human, so I'm sure I made some mistakes along the way, but there were events that happened in my life that kind of came out of nowhere, almost like a blind side.
There you go. Yeah.
Jeez, man, coffee, dangerous. And I've been trying to walk through that ever since. I had
Yeah.
to step back in full time to my main business, and basically put myself back together.
Yeah.
Not myself personally, but put in many aspects the business back together.
Yeah.
My previous executive team, members of the previous executive team, had decided to go out and create a competitive company,
Right.
which I didn't see coming. Largely because I felt like I had given them enough rope and enough leeway to kind of run a business. They were all very, very well compensated, given their level of expertise and experience that they had based on what the business was at this time. And and all the meetings leading up to this, they were excited about we were doing this, or at least that's what they would tell me, that you should totally be doing the Journey Principles. We know you love it. We know you're passionate about it. We know that's what you believe in, so you should totally be doing it.
Yeah.
Well, meanwhile, fast forward over the course of 2 years, I'm not sure if it was getting to see some of the financial matters behind a business of CHE's size, or if it was, some of the other leadership qualities that kind of go with it. I'm not really sure what was really driving it 100%. But at any rate, they decided to do it on their own. They did not come and have a conversation with me ahead of time and say, hey, look, we just disagree with the direction or whatever. They just, for lack of a better word, I actually found out by a third-party person and one of my general managers in another market. And he called me actually almost basically crying, saying, hey, I don't know how I'm going to tell you this. And it literally took him 30 minutes to just tell me what he needed to tell me.
Pretty scared to give you that news. It's pretty heavy.
Yeah, he was. And, he told me ahead of time. He went back and looked for, I guess, one of his mentors, and asked one of his mentors, what should I do? And his mentor, who just happened to know me as well, said, you need to tell Stephen. You need to tell him what's going on. And I'll never forget this. My wife and I had our first date in probably 3 months, really, because we had been building Transform U full-time, full scale. And we were just leaving the movie theater, and then I get the phone call. And the team member proceeds to share with me everything that's on his heart. I didn't know really what to do, so I dropped my wife off at our house. I then got in the car. I then boogied across town about the same time a monsoon hit. It was like something you could have had literally out of a movie. I'm making phone calls on the way, trying to figure out what's going on, because obviously when this team member called me, they gave me a lot of information, a lot of folks that have potentially been involved in this whole insurrection or treasonous act, or what do you want to call it? I mean, those are the words I use, because it's still a very raw wound from me, and it's been 5 months, and I've been trying to kind of get myself ready to even talk about it as a whole.
Yeah.
But I had to go. I went to the corporate office, and I basically shut down the emails and shut down the servers and shut down the, locking the doors in the building, because I didn't know how far everything had gone, at the tentacles, if you will, to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
I popped online and found out that basically that the company that they were trying to start had started roughly a week and a half earlier. So they were actually on CHE's payroll for almost a little over a week.
Wow.
While they were already contemplating starting their own business.
Jeez.
So that was really kind of so it really wasn't like a happenstance, you know what I'm saying? I mean, any wise business owner, if you're confronted with someone going to try to come start a competitive company, regardless of how long they've been with you, in theory, you would have a very respectful conversation, and in theory, you'd be able to.
You should. Yeah.
You'd be able to come to an arrangement where, we part ways, you go do what you got to do, but that just didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it would happen. There's some other things that I won't share on the show that have occurred since then that are leading us to look in some pretty significant areas in the business for any kind of other alterations, if you will. But the whole thing has been kind of tight. The two gentlemen that specifically that appear to have spearheaded wanting to start their own company, and there's no problem with starting your own company. It's more difficult for me, because they tell you that a high D, for example, the worst fear is betrayal.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's a lot of deception in there.
There's been from what I can tell, from my perspective, based on all the emails and spreadsheets and workbooks and accounting programs and all that stuff rolled together, there's definitely been quite a bit of what I believe to be intentional deception.
Yeah. Yeah. It just seems like it all kind of was birthed from deception, or was birthed from a place of deception, kept in secret, kept in hiding, closed door kind of thing. And I've heard you say time and time again that pride is always the father to deception.
Yep.
It's typically the thing that you say comes first before deception. Right.
Well, that's in the Bible. It says all the time that pride comes just before the fall.
Yeah.
Satan fell from heaven because he wanted to be like God.
He was very prideful.
Very prideful.
Yeah.
He felt like that he should be worshipped because he was a being of light, and God had created him in an immaculate radiance, if you will. And we're no different. Mm-mm. The hardest thing you'll ever have to do in your life is to die to self and pride and your own self-esteem issues.
Yep.
I had to do the same thing. I still walk through. I'm just like everybody else out there. I have to walk through self-esteem issues every day.
We have to check ourselves.
Got to check ourselves.
Had to do it again today. Yeah, you got to check yourself.
Yeah.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself. And that's funny. It's a funny statement, but it is true, because if you don't take the time to actually check your own behavior, you will most definitely wreck.
Oh, yeah.
You'll definitely wreck. Yeah. And it's happened to me before. I've learned patience from you and watching other great people. Should just slow down and be humble about it. So there was very little humility coming from these gentlemen. There was some deception.
Yeah, and I don't want to.
But it led you down this path to kind of where you're at now, and I see you discerning things.
Well,
very differently.
I'm attempting to discern. So the discernment is very important. Discernment causes a choice or a reaction to kind of take place. Yeah. And because everything has an equal and opposite reaction, you kind of need to think through some things.
So for me, when I first started hanging out with you and joined the Journey Principles team, I didn't know what the word discernment meant. Can you educate some folks that are just like me, that maybe they don't know what discernment is?
In my opinion, discernment is nothing more than having the knowledge and the willpower and the responsibility of using it correctly. Mm. Discernment is choosing a course of action before the course of action chooses you. Mm-hmm. It's that element of just pausing just for a minute, and we can all discern and think and contemplate at different speeds and different levels. Mm-hmm. A lot of the discernment techniques that I use outside of some of the other things we'll talk about today are God-given. Mm-hmm. In other words, they weren't present in my life until I experienced Christ with myself. Mm-hmm. Like he showed up. He said he was going to do this. Yeah. I had to completely humble myself and surrender. Mm-hmm. And that was my first humbling, if you will. I'm learning that along the lines of life, as you progress, you'll continue going on new levels of humbling on a regular basis, if you will.
Yeah, you never want to stop doing that.
Yeah, so discernment kind of started there. And then discernment shapes up the more you hang out and spend time with other people that are where you want to be in life in many ways, or have a way of kind of pausing, if you will, and kind of waiting to make a response. Stephen, 10 years ago, was very reactionary, very passionate. I mean, it was driven by passion. It was driven by principles. It was driven by an understanding, if you will. But what I struggled with was actually pausing to gain a little clarity and perspective, hence the Grow platform that we threw out there earlier this year. Yeah. Gain perspectives, number one. Yeah. Maturity comes from gaining perspective. Mm-hmm. And the first step in actually just learning to discern is actually learning to be mature.
Yeah, I heard a guy today when I was on base. I had the privilege of talking to some Air Force airmen, all different ranks. Mm-hmm. There was a guy that said exactly pretty much what you just said, that he uses patience and he pauses and he waits and he gathers information. And he pretty much laid out the Grow framework, except in his own way. And I said, hey, I just got to ask, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you? I said, because you just dropped a lot of wisdom on everybody in this room. And he said, I'm 34. See, what? You're 34 years old and you know how to do this? It's a big, big maturity step to do what you're talking about. Slow down long enough to gain perspective. But what does more perspective give you in this act of discernment?
Well, really, before you can discern anything, you have to learn how you're first deceived. Yeah. There are two levels of deception. There's the external deception and there's the internal deception. Yeah. There's the ways you fool yourself and there's the ways others fool you.
Okay. Let's talk about those. What's an internal deception?
Some of the internal ones, for example, pride is an internal deception. It's the belief that you are worth more than your that you are worth more than your contribution. Okay. It is it's the thing that talks to you and says, well, if, or you should be, or things of that nature, rather than how can I serve? And pride never comes from a place of service. Mm-mm. Pride always comes from a selfish place. Yeah, always. Yeah, absolutely. Another one's like it, arrogance. Okay. Arrogance was something that I've had to work on my entire life. That only recently, the last 2 or 3 years, as it really started to dial down as I've been working on me. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that is because I've learned that arrogance is actually a cover-up.
Yeah,
So arrogance is a cover up for the fact that you don't really believe that you're really something.
Right. You kind of have to showcase that whatever you do for a living or your hobbies, whatever it is,
it's showboating.
Grand thing.
Well, because you always put yourself in a place where you always have to be more and do more for other people.
Oh wow!
I've got the nicest car, I've got the nicest house. What do you do for a living? You never. As soon as somebody says, "Well, what do you do for a living?"
Yeah.
You have a choice in that moment to just answer the question or to answer the question and embellish it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
if you're embellishing it, that's arrogance.
That's true.
Right.
And you'll find the folks really fast. You're probably thinking of people right now that do this.
Absolutely.
I grew up with people like that, and it was always the competition, the one-upper, and you just don't like. Hey, man, you just don't like spending time with people like that.
You don't. And here's the funny thing: is when you are that person, it's not obvious that you're doing it.
No.
So that's when some of those relationships can really come into play. That you can kind of make sure that they're holding you in check.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how can someone fix or repair or at least suppress their internal deception, right? How do they get that out of the way?
Well, I think for the first two, the biggest thing you can do is you can learn to promote other people.
Yeah.
Learn to give the credit away.
Yeah.
Because the credit is irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's just irrelevant. I may have put together a massive thing for Journey Principles or CHE. Like I may have had mostly to do with it, right? Mm-hmm. But if I recognize the 10% that somebody else did and I act like that 10% is the 90%, I'm going to build relationships along the way, and I'm going to die to myself a little more. Mm-hmm. And when I'm saying dying to yourself, I'm not saying think less of yourself. I'm just saying hold yourself accountable to a different level of standard, which is I'm going to figure out a way to serve and acknowledge other people before I acknowledge myself. Mm-hmm. In fact, if you feel the need to acknowledge yourself, then there's a problem.
Oh, yeah. Big problem.
Right? However, if you do this other thing well, where you're constantly recognizing other folks, and you're constantly shifting towards their benefit of kind of what they contributed, then what happens is you're going to find your play. You're going to find you're going to find it that others actually will promote you without you having to say a word.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll give you a perfect example. One of our VP of operations right now at CHE, I was in a meeting with one of our customers, and I was very proud to just talk about how awesome the guy did. Mm-hmm. And he just sat there and took it. Like, meaning he was just like, I think he didn't walk out of the room with his chest bowed. He just kind of he walked out of the room with a spirit of gratitude. That is a level of maturity that I hadn't seen a lot with others that have been at the executive level. A lot of times that promotion goes to make you go, yeah, I am that way, aren't I?
Yeah.
And that's that whole arrogance thing.
Yeah, it kind of creates arrogance. All right, let's talk about external deception.
Well, I got a few more of the internal ones.
Okay.
Another one's fear.
All right.
So I've had to walk through an enormous amount of fear. Uh-huh. Everything from the first 5 minutes of getting on stage at Transform You, which I felt like I was prepared for it until the night before happened.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And then there's how's this going to work out? How's this going to affect things? And this is where that faith thing comes into play.
Yeah.
I have had such a hard time right now walking out specific areas of faith and trust right now. Mm-hmm. Now it's beginning to take shape. I can feel it taking shape like literally over the last week and a half. Mm-hmm. Really kind of like, okay, so this doesn't work out, but this just took its place. And that's happened several times in the last 5 months in regards to CHE and things like nature. So it's
okay.
Change has to happen from time to time, right? Mm-hmm. So fear is a huge internal one.
Yep.
Another one's shame, guilt. Both of those are very, very powerful internal deceivers.
Yes, they can be sabotory.
I mean, here's the deal. If there's enough guilt and shame in your life, you will stop yourself from doing amazing, amazing things that you're probably called by God himself to do.
Yeah.
Only because you're not willing to let grace and mercy actually kind of drip over your life.
Yeah.
So those are a couple more of the internal deceptions to kind of be careful of and watch out for.
Yeah.
And we'll get into discernment in a little bit, how to kind of fight that stuff off a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the nuts and bolts.
That's a lot for someone just to battle that internally, right? They've got a lot going on. If they can get over the internal stuff, I feel like they're more prepared for external. Is that true? Can they fight off external if they're already kind of champions over internal?
Yeah, to a degree, if you're already stable enough in your personality.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm going at.
Yeah, meaning you're not overestimating yourself or underestimating yourself. You're in a place of contentment.
Okay.
Contentment is a good, healthy place for ego, like a healthy ego. Which is not edging God out. That's just allowing God to work kind of deal. You can definitely take more on. More can come at you. And case in point, had this happened to me a year, 2 years ago, I'm not sure I would have handled it as well.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm not sure that I would have been prepared.
Really?
It was only through God really working on me, on my insides, which He's been teaching me this entire time while we've been building Journey Principles.
Yeah.
You know, because if Journey Principles is really about other people, people are real. They're going to pick it up on it.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to see if you're showboating or not. You know, so when you start looking at that whole thing, you start to realize that it's truly better to serve than anything else.
Absolutely. Okay, so moving from internal to external, what are some things for folks to watch out for?
External, a lot of times, are the biggest one, I think, is gossip. Gossip creates more lies and deception than anything else.
It does. It's like a little
And it breeds. And it breeds and it
Spreads.
breeds and it breeds and it breeds. Gossip can be inside your own head. Gossip can be in your relationships. But both of those are incredibly detrimental to any kind of real level of really, truly discerning, because what happens is when gossip's prevalent, it creates a cloud through which you can't really discern.
Yeah, it does kind of make things muddy, right? You don't know what's true, what's facts, what's fiction. After a while, you don't even know which direction to turn if there's so much that's allowed to go on.
That's right.
So that's
you know,
one.
blame.
Okay.
Placing the blame.
Yeah.
Lying, obviously.
Yeah.
Being intentionally deceitful. I find that anything that you feel like you have to say in the dark is probably deceptive in nature.
I like that. Anything you need to say in the dark or in private.
It's probably a deceptive nature.
Yeah.
Now, there's a difference of saying something to an executive team in the business world, for example, or to your wife that is part of that relationship.
Yeah.
And then saying things outside of that can whittle off in other places.
Right. Yeah. And it kind of creates doubt, right? It kind of creates some fear.
Yep.
So what I'm drawing the connection to is some of these external that you're talking about can actually create the internal deception. So if you don't have a master over the internal to defeat that, it's almost like externals pouring into the internal, where you need a strong internal self-control where you can push that back out. Or what else? What else are some external things that people really need to be cautious of? You
need to be cautious of who your close relationships are. People need to earn their position closer.
Yeah.
So if you think about a target symbol, okay?
Yeah.
That middle ring, that first circle.
Yeah.
That first circle is your close people. Okay? The next ring are people that you're associate with, you're going to spend time with. A lot of times that second circle is your coworkers and things of that nature.
Right.
Outside of that, there's another ring, which are people that I consider acquaintances.
Yeah.
Outside of that, those are people who are flat out unsafe. And the further you go out, the more important that is.
Yeah.
So when you look at your relationships as a whole, I can actually have someone start out in the center, but if they betray or do something dishonest inside of my relationship, out of selfish gain or anything, they automatically go out rings.
Yeah.
You know, so in this case, I had people that were very tight knit to me, people that I believed in heavily, that I would have, that I bragged about on a regular basis and all kinds of stuff. You guys have heard me do it on air, right? Well, they made their decisions. Now they're pushed out to 2 or 3 rings.
Right.
Right. Where there is no relationship.
Yeah, because you're in control of these rings and you're in control of where the people are, right? But based on their decisions and actions towards you as the individual, you can place them wherever they fit best.
Yeah, I mean, there are things you can measure in the external world. You can measure theft. You can measure betrayal.
Yeah.
You can measure relationships, right? Those are things that you can actually physically measure on a regular basis to ensure that you are actually going to get the best possible circumstance, which is really what we're talking about. We're trying to create an environment in which you can actually discern.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what we're after.
Right.
And if you have all these other things pulling at you, and I've been fighting this now for several things, because there's rumors over here, there's rumors over there, there's rumors over here, and 9 times out of 10, the rumors are false.
Rumors are never short.
Well, rumors are nothing more than gossip.
That's it.
Somebody started it somewhere. Yeah. Somebody feels the need to start it.
Yeah.
Right? So the deception actually occurred by the person that started it to begin with.
Right.
Right? So all of those things kind of really wrap up. But what we're talking about is creating an environment to discern.
Yeah.
So one of the things I do myself to try to create a better environment to discern is I'll use my truck or a prayer closet, something like that. I'll turn on some light piano music, and I'll just kind of sit still. This is something I've been doing now for a few weeks now.
There's that pause and be still kind of.
It's the pause and be still. It's the asking. I mean, I'm constantly asking God, what is the truth?
Right.
What is the truth?
Yeah.
I know you're the way, the truth, and the life. I know that.
Right. Right.
But in this circumstance, Lord, what is the truth? What do you want? What do you want me to learn?
How do I navigate all these negatives and gossip things that are going on. That's exhausting if you're trying to paddle through that stream by yourself.
It is, and that's why it's important to actually have some of those key relationships.
Yeah.
There's been a handful of people I bounced some stuff off of. I actually talked to my wife quite a bit.
Yeah.
I know she's in it with me, but for lack of a better word, she's how do I say this on air? She has this rumor. I'll cut them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not literally, but she's very protective over us and our family and our relationship, which is I don't have a problem with. But it's just kind of interesting. Sorry, had a little flashback memory there popped in there. Sorry.
So how can someone learn to discern? Right, we're talking about we want the folks to find the environment so they can discern. How do they learn how to get there?
Well, again, create an environment where you can actually sit it, because the more important it is, the more time you're going to have to take to use it. To consider it.
Safe place.
Safe place. Find a safe place. Find a quiet place. Shut your phone off. Shut your computer off. The world is not going to fall apart in 30 minutes.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Right? Somebody's going to blow up your phone and all that kind of stuff. That's all well and good. You can call them back in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Take 30 minutes to yourself.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in a season like I am right now where you're trying to walk through some pretty strenuous waters.
Yeah.
Okay? So the more time you need to create a time. Right? Put yourself in a safe environment. Mm-hmm. The next thing is actually use quality questions. So a guy by the name of Tom Patterson, we've talked about him before on the show, had a book that he, I want to say it's Living Your Best Life Now. I'll have to Google it and put out the information. But a good buddy of mine, Chris Lacroto, told me a long time ago, I went through a process that he had, I forgot I think he called it Life Plan, but I can't remember the exact name of it. And I learned 4 specific questions that really kind of help resonate going through unclear areas. When you're seeking perspective, you're seeking clarity, you're seeking what to do, who to talk to about it. Mm-hmm. These questions do a lot of good in helping shape that. So get the environment, get a yellow pad and a pen, draw 4 boxes or 4 quadrants. I know that we like our diagrams typically are circles because we like circles because they're eternity. They don't go in a circle. Yeah. Right? And then write these 4 questions in there. Yeah. Right? And then take your time, sit in the quiet, and just answer the questions.
So you're talking about a safe environment where you're away from all the gossip, you're away from all of the rumors and naysayers, and you can kind of just quiet all of that noise, then get into your own place and answer these questions. I assume you're about to give us these questions.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess we have some time.
Okay. Because the folks are probably like, all right, what are the questions? And then basically you're talking about what most folks would like to get to. Mm-hmm. What if they're always around the people that are causing them the strife, or they're causing them the problems? How can they get away from that?
Again, remember we just find a safe environment.
Yeah, I'm trying to think for their sake. How do they get to that? How do they get to a place where they know that's okay?
Where they know it's okay. I'm telling you, it's okay. It's always okay to work on you. It's always okay to pursue perspective. It's always okay to pursue understanding.
And that's what kind of was getting at.
Yeah, it's always okay to pursue wisdom.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bible says, seek wisdom with all your heart, and you'll find it.
Yeah.
Seek me with all your heart, and you'll find it.
Yeah.
The Bible, they use the word seek several places, and it's always those who seek find. If you're not seeking, you're not going to find anything.
Yeah. True.
Right? So, again, that's where these questions come into play, is to make sure that you have a process to allow you to seek.
Yep. Okay. So what are the questions that they should write down on this pen and paper they have?
Yeah. The first one is, what's right?
Okay.
We've kind of covered some of these before, but they're just pivotal in learning to discern.
Yep.
What's right? What is going on right now with this particular situation, this relationship, this season that's right? So I'll give you an example. So obviously we've talked a lot about what the craziness of the season it is, and if they want to go watch the other video, they can. They'll get a lot more details.
Yeah.
What's right for me right now? What's right is I've been able to watch people that have been suppressed shine.
Okay.
Okay. These are people that have been working with CHE for a while who had been held back, not really necessarily intentionally, but hadn't been really, their skill set hadn't really been fully utilized.
Okay.
Well, now they are.
Good.
So now they're walking in that. Mm-hmm. So they feel better.
Good stuff.
They're working better for the business, and therefore the business is growing.
Okay. So right? That's a right. This
is right.
Okay.
The other thing is we're getting really hardcore on our cost again.
Okay.
Right. That's right. The entire company's focused on drilling down on cost. That's right. Mm-hmm. We're focused heavily on culture, not culture. Culture. we're focused we're focused a lot on culture.
Okay.
Okay, that's right. The whole team's like, okay, do we want toxic behavior in our community, in our environment? No.
Yeah.
All right, what do we do to need to change it? Right.
Good.
So we're going through another thing that's right is we're going through this process of identifying what's needed.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Good stuff. Good.
What's confusing would be the next question.
Okay.
What is driving confusion in your life?
Mm-hmm.
Or in this instance, this relationship, this situation, what are you seeking clarity on? You know, confusion a lot of time creates fear.
Yeah.
Fear creates stagnation.
Yep.
Because you don't want to take a step forward.
A lot of times it does, and the only thing to cure that is you said it was clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
options. Lots of options.
Another way to help me answer is that what needs more clarity, and then like, okay, this is what's confusing right now. This I just need more clarity here, and here.
And there's something about writing it down. When you write it down, it becomes less scary.
And you commit to it.
Well, you commit to it. You're also not recycling the stuff over your head.
Yeah, you kind of get it out of that world's fastest ping pong match.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are the other ones?
What's missing is the next question. So if each of these questions has a terminology that kind of goes with it. So what's right is something you amplify. What's confusing is something you're going to clarify.
Okay.
What's missing is something you're searching for.
Okay.
All right. So you're searching for something.
Yeah.
What's missing right now in my life right now is a certain level of balancing responsibilities.
Okay.
Because both teams, for example, for both businesses, need my attention. They need my effort. They need part of me in my diagnosed DNA in what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. However, right now, that's very unclear. Like I'm having a hard time finding the right balance to make sure everything's becoming successful, everything's doing like it's supposed to be doing, and it's a tightrope. Why? Because CH&E is a lot of my time right now.
Yeah. Right.
So
okay. And there's one more. What's the last
final one is what's wrong.
What's wrong? Okay.
A lot of us spend all of our time inside of what's wrong.
Yeah.
It's this sucks. This is bad. I don't have this.
I was
going to
ask, if someone's coming from a dark place or they're just kind of frustrated, I would think that they would probably have more, and this is just me kind of speculating, they would probably have more in the what's missing, and now you say it, what's wrong, than they would have in the what's right. Is it okay for them to have that? I don't want to freak them out.
It's okay for them to have it, but once they get done writing what's wrong, I'd like for them to look at that list in the what's wrong category and see if there's another place to put it.
Okay.
A lot of time, the stuff that goes in what's wrong is not really wrong. It's typically missing or confused.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
So that way it doesn't freak them out and they think that, oh, no, everything's just the sky's falling.
Yeah, so like what's wrong in my life right now, for example, is trying to find the right amount of balance for the right amount of time for the right amount of impact.
Yeah.
Okay? Family included.
Yeah.
Okay? So what that really means is it's not really wrong. Something's missing.
Something's missing there, yeah.
Right? There's an element of structure that's missing. There's an element of security that's missing. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. These are good. So, folks, if you want to get these quadrants of discernment or questions of discernment, you've probably heard us talk about it a lot. All right, Stephen has mentioned them a lot.
Because they work.
He's used them over and over again. He's having to use them right now. You can simply text JP Radio to 33444. That's JP RADIO to 33444, and we'll send them to you. So laminate those jokers, write on them, put them on your fridge, whatever. It's one of those very simple things, but it works over and over again. So
again, it's proven. It's a proven record. My good friend Chris Lacerda uses these questions in some of his stuff that he does.
Yeah.
And then Tom Patterson, the original creator.
Yeah.
Of the Life Plan.
Right.
Is someone else that obviously created these questions a long while ago.
And I like this. I like it because it takes you from being emotional and puts you in a place of factual where you have to be honest with yourself, really. Especially if you're out there by yourself and you're trying to just figure stuff out, like, oh my gosh, what's going on with my life? How did I get here? How do I get out of here? Yeah. It makes you step away from the emotion, which can cloud a lot of things. It puts you in a very factual place. So what's another thing you might want to tell someone that's seeking out discernment?
Well, it's all done in steps, right?
Okay.
You got to find a safe environment.
Yep.
You got to ask great
Step
questions.
1, safe environment. Step 2, great questions.
Yep. And the next one is learning to use fault.
Use fault. Okay. That's fault.
Fault. FAULT.
Okay. It's an acronym.
Right. It's an acronym.
Got it.
Yeah. Not you should go out and place fault on yourself or other people.
No.
But because fault is so often pulled into discerning or deception.
Yeah.
I thought it might be kind of cool to walk through a couple steps that fault illustrates.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll
That's
give you an
a good
example.
word choice because they're so. While you're trying to discern what's right, and what's wrong, fault kind of wants to find its way to land somewhere.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is too is that again you're moving from this emotional place to this more logical, contemplative place, right? Which is really where the answers come from. And when you're in the emotional zone, you're normally too blinded to see the answers that are right before you a lot of times. Okay. Even now I've been getting coaching to a certain degree by key people in my life that I ask questions to. And a lot of times we spend the first 30 minutes them getting me out of my funk. Woe is me. Woe is me. Right. But that's just that's the nature of going through adversity.
Because you're human.
Yeah. Because I'm not perfect.
Everyone's human. We all start emotionally. Some of us get out of emotions faster than others, and some of us just take a little bit longer to get out.
That's right.
So
I think fault. I think it's really, really super important. This is the one thing that that had helped prepare me moving forward. And that is forgiveness.
Okay.
The F for fault stands for forgiveness.
Why did you start there?
Because I've learned that if you don't start there, you'll take whatever emotional turmoil, anger, bitterness, and that stuff, that you'll take it into everything else. You'll take it into that process of discerning.
That's true.
You'll take it into that process of trying to make quality actions and choices. And when you start over here, it's poison. Right? You're not going to drink poisonous water if you know poison's there, so why not start the water off without actually having poison in it?
Get it out. Yeah.
Exactly. So a lot of times, like in this particular season, I've been praying a lot for those that, in my opinion, have betrayed at various levels of trust within me.
Right.
Why? Because I didn't want to make decisions in the marketplace solely because I wanted to get even or get revengeful, because that does nothing.
No, it definitely doesn't help. It might feel good for the short term, right? But not the long term. Okay, so forgive.
The next one's acknowledge.
Acknowledge. Right?
So F-A, acknowledge. Your responsibility, your accountability. Okay? A lot of times when we do some of our breakout sessions at Transform You Live, one of the things we do is we have them kind of dial into how much responsibility they had in any given situation. A lot of times we take on, as part of that deception part, we take on more than we actually had the accountability or the responsibility of actually trying to solve.
Right.
I've tried to make decisions on things that I had nothing to do with.
Or no control over.
Or no control over.
I imagine that feels pretty heavy.
It does, because you're trying to control something that shouldn't be controlled.
Yeah.
You can't control somebody else's emotions or attitudes, but you can control yours.
That's true.
You can't control somebody else's actions and choices, but you can control yours.
That's right.
So you start with where you are at.
That's the only thing you're really in control of is your own attitude and your actions.
Speaking of, you did a terrific job, I heard today, with the emotional intelligence with the U.S. Air Force.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Buddy.
A lot of fun. It's more picture related because I learned that we all learn in pictures.
That's right.
And I'm from Tennessee. Words are not our best thing that we can do. Sorry
if not true.
Sorry if you're out there and you're from Tennessee. But we had a great time, and we talked about that. That's always a point that I like to point out, that your attitude and your actions are only in your control. And your attitude is like a Big Mac truck with a 2-year-old driving in, and your actions are the trailer that is pulling behind, right? Your actions are behind it, and your actions are always going to follow. And it gave me the opportunity to let people know that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks.
Straight out of the Bible.
Exactly. And it's true, because what we dwell on, what you're just talking about, if you don't forgive something or someone, a situation, you're dwelling on it. That's right. And you're right. You will take that into every step after that.
Yep. It's funny. Jesus once said, he said, it's not what goes into a mouth that makes him unclean, it's what comes out of it.
That's right. That's right. Unless you're Brian, and you're both cases, because he went completely vegan, no meat, so he's like clean in and out inside it.
Which means no sushi.
No, poor guy.
Whatever.
I'll take his sushi roll. Anyway.
All right, so F-A, forgive, acknowledge.
All right, what's you?
You, understand. Understanding. Always be seeking understanding.
Yeah.
Understand your role, your responsibility. Understand your needs of yourself and the needs of others.
Yep.
It'd be very easy for me right now in this particular season to only make decisions based on my own and my family and my own personal needs. However, if I did that, I would affect a lot of other families.
Yeah.
Okay, because of the responsibilities that are on my shoulders.
It's big.
So I need to be seeking understanding on a regular basis. As I'm learning to discern, I'm always looking for understanding. How is this going to affect this? How is this going to affect that? Not to the point where I'm freaking myself out, creating worry, but where I'm identifying certain roadblocks that might be in my way that might need to be addressed.
Well, that brings us back to that attitude of servitude, right? If you start with the attitude of servitude instead of the selfish pride, or the selfish just fear, even, it kind of proves your earlier point that it does lead you down the right path.
That's right. The next one, listen.
Okay.
Oh man, I have a hard time with that one.
Yeah.
Listen.
We all do.
You'll know you're listening because you can actually repeat what somebody said to you. If you cannot do that, then you are not listening.
That's right.
You are hearing.
Not listening for your turn to speak. This is another point we talked about today with the airmen. Intentionally listening, I think, is what you're talking about. So listening with the intent to learn, gain clarity and perspective. And if you ain't got nothing to say, you ain't got nothing to say. It's just
you're also showing humility.
Yeah.
When you allow others to speak, and when you allow them to really share, and you can actually take on what has been said and literally take it backwards.
It goes a long way. I've experienced that. I've experienced that a lot, and it does go a long way when I know you're listening, or anyone else that's out there that we're having a back and forth.
Yeah.
You want to continue the conversation, and you trust that it's going to go somewhere productive.
That's right. Final one's teach.
All right.
Yeah, so basically take everything that you've learned
Yeah.
as you're going through this season. You've found a safe place. You've asked quality questions. You've already walked through the steps of forgiveness. You've already walked through the steps of acknowledgement. You've already walked through the steps of understanding, right?
Yep.
You've already walked through the steps of what you've learned and what learning you need to use.
Yeah.
When you've been through all those steps, now you're probably ready to actually teach based on what you have been learning through that entire process.
Yeah.
See, that entire process is full of learning.
Oh, yeah.
That getting
absolutely.
alone, getting that safe place, getting a yellow pad and a pen, right?
Yep.
Going to the next step where you're actually asking quality questions. All you're doing is learning the entire time.
And why should they teach? I know the answer to this, but why would they?
You know-
Why do they want to teach? Because I think this is valuable. I think every time we pass a new milestone,
Yeah.
I think you call it a life gate. Every time we go through that, and if we don't go out there and teach, we're missing an opportunity to have a rippling effect
That's right.
with other folks. But I want you to kind of
For me, the reason you teach is because it sticks. Your learning needs to stick.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a Velcro. I mean, it literally needs to be part of who you are.
So when it comes up again, you're ready.
So when it comes up again, you are ready. You're stronger. You're more prepared.
Yeah.
They say new levels, new devils, right? You've heard that before.
Yep.
New blessings, right?
Yeah.
New things to watch out for. All right. So you need to be, and that's the only way you grow. So, or you get to take the test again. It's up to you.
Yeah.
But you teach because when you teach, you learn. It sticks.
Yeah.
Not only are you looking at it, you're hearing it. Now you're looking at it. You're seeing it. You're speaking it. It becomes part of all five of your senses.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And because it becomes all five of your senses, it now becomes tangible. And because it becomes tangible, it's now learned.
Right. Yeah. Now you own it.
That's right.
It's applied in the real world out there. So let's go through the steps one more time.
Sure.
That's a lot of information, but let's go through the steps one more time. And then we'll just kind of wrap it all with a nice, big, pretty bow. All right. So step one.
Step one, find a great, safe place in which to begin to discern.
Alone or with someone else?
I recommend solitude, but not isolation. Okay. So solitude means I'm going to go for a set period of time to go and reflect on this process to see what God will share with me.
Okay.
Okay. However, after that's all said and done, if you then want to have another set period of time with one of your quality mentors or instructors or something like that, then by all means do that.
That's just what I'm thinking. I want to bounce it off of you kind of thing. Am I thinking the right direction?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
I'm doing that right now. I've reached out to one of my quality mentors, and hopefully they'll give me some time to share with them kind of what I'm going on. Because in this particular season of life, there are very few who have been through the particular season I've been through.
Yeah.
I have to find someone who's already been through that cost of the calling, if you will, to help me understand more about it.
Got it. Yeah, it's wise. Okay, step two.
Yep, step two, ask quality questions.
Ask quality questions.
What's right, what's wrong, confusing, missing. The other thing is always be, as a side note, be looking for the opportunities and the threats that kind of come along with it.
Okay.
Okay, so opportunities and threats. What are things that could jeopardize this particular approach?
Yep.
What are things that could promote this particular approach?
Yep.
What are things that can add to the legacy, right?
Okay. So these are kind of like the little side outliners that could add some value to your situation.
In fact, we probably should actually put a little cheat sheet together and just give it to you guys. I know we got the 4 questions, but I just dawned on me I got these other things that are popping up in my head.
Yeah.
So we'll have to rewatch this video so we can get you something else.
That's pretty wise, though, to think about. Don't keep the blinders on and the face down. Watch for the opportunities that could be coming from left to right. Okay.
And when you're watching for those threats, you're looking for the areas in which you can be deceived.
Yeah.
How are you deceiving yourself? How is somebody else possibly deceiving you?
It's good. Okay, so step 3.
Step 3 is going to get into the fault method.
Yep.
Learn and forgive, or you apply forgiveness to the person, place, or thing that's already in that situation.
Yeah.
Okay. Acknowledge your responsibility and your accountability to that. You can also acknowledge responsibility and accountability that someone else has to it, but make sure you're doing that and not blaming.
No blame game. Yeah.
Right? No blaming.
Yep.
Okay. Because reality is we all have responsibility. Even this season I'm in, I have a level of accountability and responsibility. I may not have uncovered all the facets in which it took shape from my perspective, but I am learning.
Yep.
Right. So anyway.
Okay. So there's acknowledge, understand, listen, and teach.
Yep.
Okay. What's one other main thing that they can take away as the last little bit of the best way to discern and defeat deception?
For me, I'm always asking God for a much more focused approach to hearing his voice.
Okay.
So prayer, meditation, I think are pivotal.
All right.
You can follow a lot of strategies. You can do a lot of that stuff, and the strategies will help. These things will do a lot of the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah.
They really will.
Yeah.
But nothing supersedes the Word of God. Nothing supersedes the word of prayer. Nothing supersedes Him speaking into it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In fact, in this particular season, I want to know more than anything else what He wants me to do.
Right.
Including if it sits still, which is very, very hard for me to do.
Well, because it's the right way. It's truth, right? And you can hang your hat on it, depend on it every day that ends in Y.
That's right. Well, especially when you go through adversity, he says, "Come to me who are weak and weary and heavy laden, for I will give you rest."
Yeah.
Take my yoke upon you, for my burden is light.
Yeah.
Because he's already taken the burden.
Yep.
Now, if you hold on to the burden and you're doing this whole tug of war thing with him,
You're just gonna go wore out.
yeah, exactly. It's exhausting, right? He's like, just let go.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, it's my thing. He's like, if you let go, I can give you something else.
Awesome.
Yeah,
So I love how you package this all up into easy steps, and you kind of wrapped it up with the biggest truth of all, and that's just simply leave it up to God.
Yeah.
Leave it up to Jesus and let him take the wheel, if you sense right.
It literally, Jesus take the wheel. And I know that's a Carrie Underwood song, but it is so true.
Yeah, it is.
Because here's the deal. The harder you try to control everything, the more lack of control you're actually going to have. You're not going to have, the harder you grasp onto that rope,
Yep.
the more it's going to burn your hands as it's being pulled away from you.
That's right. And that does not feel good. That does not feel good. I've had that before.
Well, you had that during a Spartan race this weekend, right? When you're climbing the ropes?
Yeah. Thankfully, we didn't have that slippery rope, and we got
Look
up.
Look at this, how solid this guy
We
is.
got up and down it pretty good. So, folks, I know we're almost out of time now, but in case you didn't catch all of that, check it out again, and also check out Stephen's 30-minute video that he recently posted on social media about the ins and outs and the details about the last 5 months. I think if you watch that and then you come back to this, you write down the steps, you write down the questions, you write down fault and what that stands for.
Yeah.
That'll give you the battle plan to take on your own deception, whether that's internal or external. You're being deceived somehow, right, in some way. And if that's not enough, if that's only a piece that's going to help you, we invite you to go to transformyouonline.com. This lesson is in there. This information is in there. This is part of the intellectual pillar that Stephen's put together, right? So you got a lot of nuggets here, a lot of information. Thanks for showing up and teaching us today.
Hey, it's my pleasure, man.
This
I
was awesome.
actually miss everybody. I hope to be back on more radio shows pretty soon.
Yeah,
I know
we need it.
we're actively
it.
pursuing being live on some local radio stations and even possible syndication. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. The future looks bright.
Definitely creative.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for hanging out with us this week. We'll see you guys next week on the Journey Principles Radio Show. Have a fantastic week.
God bless you. See ya.